Hello, everyone, and happy Elfmas again. Here we are on the 7th day of Elfmas. It's very exciting.
Wow.
And we have a special guest. Melanie is joining us today. Hi there, Melanie. Elf
Hi
Melanie.
there.
And Elf Danita is joining us as well. She's one of our lead elves, but she's been busy working behind the scenes. And I'm glad you finally made it to join us, Danita.
Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, excellent. Okay. And we also have let's see, we also have Elf Jinx is in the chat, is joining us by audio. And the special thing about this is that Elf Melanie was one of the elves who worked on the wish, but Jinx below is the one who actually gave the wish, so she's here to hear and to watch everything that's happened. We'll hear some oohs and ahs. How are you? How are you, Elf Jinx? Hello? Can you? I don't know.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us? Maybe her audio is not working along with her video. So she will be listening in though. So yeah, so it's been a busy week. So we are now well into it. Before we turn it over to Melanie, does someone want to give an update on the stats? Vicky, you just did amazing work on the spreadsheet there. So why don't you give us the rundown?
Yes. Well, I put an automatic counter for progress, and now our elves can change the category, and it will change the counter. So please be careful with that. We have 196 wishes that have no progress. So if you're watching this and you still want to be an elf, you can do it, because we're in 46% of advance. So we want to make everyone happy. So please help. And we have 48 wishes, complete wishes, completely fulfilled, and 63 in the category of check it twice. They might be completed wishes with no resolution, or maybe we just couldn't fulfill the wish, but they have something advanced, progressed, and research notes. And we have 58 in the category in progress, which means they are still being researched without any resolution yet. So that's our counter. Yay!
Great.
Yes. Okay. And we have more than 110 elves working.
Yeah.
And did you notice that we have 365 wishes? One a day. We have
one a day. That's
amazing. Magic number.
Amazing. Oh, I love it. That's great. Okay. And Heather was just here. Elf Jinx was just here and has gone again. She did warn me that her connection might be unstable and that she might be popping in and out or trying to. So if she shows up, if one of my other elves sees her, let me know, or let her join in. But we're all excited. I'm very excited because the subject of this profile is a theater person or someone who's worked in fine arts, and our presenter, Elf Melanie, also has a connection. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Melanie, to introduce yourself, and then just go straight into talking about the profile.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here today. Good afternoon from the very warm state of Texas, but luckily it's sunshining today and we don't have the storms like we did yesterday. I was so excited to find this profile. I was actually the second set of eyes on it and just sort of was taking a break from being a primary researcher and came across this on the Google Sheet and thought, okay, it's a notable. Let's see, what this is. So the profile is here. You're looking at it. It's Gertrude Phyllis Hilliard, also known as Phyllis Berry. And we're going to go through several names with her because, as one does in the arts, sometimes you're going to have a stage name. And my background, just for interest here is I'm a university professor at the University of Texas at Arlington, and I teach in the communication department and communication studies, but I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Performance, and my husband is a professional actor and a theater and film historian. So there was lots of excitement in this house because I would be fine and I'd say, hey, look at this, or do you know about this? Or so he learned new things. I learned new things. He was able to steer me in different directions. So this has been just a real gift for us this holiday season, learning about her. So let's just start at her early years here. Oop, there we go. Oh, come back, come back, come back. There it is, the wish. So the wish was, Heather, and this is Jinx, was to expand Gertrude's profile. She said she knew about her death, and it is a sensitive nature, so she omitted that from the profile. But she didn't know very much about her career, and so she really wanted both genealogical information and career information. And so Anonymous Wimble, who is the first elf that looked at this, when I came into the profile, there was lots of genealogy information on there. And I thought, well, okay, that part of the wish is taken care of. Let me see what I can do about her career. So she was, she and her mother, she was born in 1908, and her mother separated from her father about 1911 and picked the two of them in London. And that's where she began her training. And she worked with a company called the Tiller Girls. And this is where her first stage name comes in. She becomes Phyllis Dewberry. And John Tiller, I know, and this is a great picture. And I'm not sure, and Heather, maybe you can help with this if you're listening in and you're here. I think that there's a chance that Phyllis is actually in this picture. I think there's a chance that she may be the fourth one from the back of the line, but I can't find enough out about this picture. There's lots of different troops. This is in the right time frame. It's on a ship. I know that she traveled with them, but wouldn't it be really neat if we could find her in this? If you look, the way the girls are standing, I know, isn't that cool? Now, I can't say for sure, but it would be really neat if it happened. So if you look at the way the girls are standing, this is somewhat indicative of how these troops worked. John Tiller established these troops in the late 1800s, 1890s, and they actually still exist even today. They've come back within the 2000s. But these troops, and there was a lot of different ones, a lot of different groups of troops, what they did is they hired girls that were of the same build and the same height, and about 12 or so in a troop at a time. And they did what was called precision dancing or pony dancing. And there was ballet. There was also kick lines. There was also tap occasionally. And this was very much of the time period in variety shows and things like, particularly in England at that point in time. And this may evoke an American troupe. If anyone's ever seen the Rockettes before, this was actually a precursor. The founder of the Rockettes that started in St. Louis actually had seen the Tiller Girls and thought, ooh, that would be a really good idea. But in America, we want taller girls with longer legs. And that's what they did for the Rockettes. So they did that while they were in London. And her mother, Bertha, became a wardrobe mistress at the Haymarket Theater. And so that was sort of their entrance into the theatrical world. So they started on the stage. Obviously, she was very talented because she worked in many wonderful houses, theaters in London. So I don't know why yet, and I didn't see this in the profile. Heather may know more about this, but in 1923, Bertha decided to take the two of them to Australia. And I have a feeling that there may have been some sort of feeling within the theater world in England that Australia was a open market for new talent, and there was fame and money to be made there. We as theater people like to follow the work, and sometimes that happens. And I just have a feeling, again, this is an assumption on my part, that this was sort of the new frontier, that there were big theaters to be worked in. What you're looking at there is Her Majesty's Theatre in Brisbane. And they had circuits in Sydney and Perth and Brisbane. So when they got there, Phyllis was very employable, and she worked in all sorts of different venues. She did cabaret entertainment, the Wentworth Cafe and the Ambassadors Club. I haven't researched them completely yet because there are so many rabbit holes to go down with her, but these were very prominent cabaret places in Sydney. She was a principal dancer in the Francis Scully Pony Ballet. Now, Francis Scully was the precursor to the ballet in Brisbane, which is still around 80 years on. So she was working in very prestigious companies. She did variety shows. She actually was in 2 films in Australia. Again, I know nothing about the film industry in pre-talkies in Australia, but she was also dabbling in that. She worked in stage shows. She toured in musicals and pantomimes. She was in a production of No No Nanette. And then she was in the vaudeville circuit there. And it was vaudeville had traveling companies that did different circuits, different towns at different times, so that people in these cities were continuing to see new shows month after month. I don't know for sure because I can't find anything that talks about her singing voice, but we know for sure she was a dancer. We know for sure she was an actress. And if she was in musicals, even the chorines were most often vocalist for backup. So again, if we make an assumption, she's what we call a triple threat. So it's pretty amazing how talented she was.
Mm-hmm. We actually have a question.
When
Melanie,
they got onto the Fuller's circuit. Oh, I'm sorry. Tell me. What's the question?
Okay, Amanda, who's actually in Australia, she was asking what name would she have used when she was in Australia?
She was, at that point in time, Phyllis Dewberry.
Dewberry. So, Phyllis
Yeah,
Dewberry.
D-U and then Berry. Yeah.
Right.
Oh my goodness, this is wonderful. If you're in Australia, I may be I may be tapping you. So when they got on the Fuller's circuit, Bertha, her mother, married Lance Vane. And he was a brother to Jim Gerald, and they were both headliners in this circuit. And they were very influential, even on their own. So it was very fortuitous to now have these famous new family members. In fact, when she was 19, she went with her Uncle Jim and his wife. Let me check my notes here. Her name was Elise Jennings. on a tour to the U.S. They were going into the tour in order to sort of see what was going on in the American front, to buy some costumes, to gather rights for some new material. And she went with him, and they traveled over 10,000 miles. And truly, that is probably where she decided, you know what, America is where I want to be. And this is sort of indicative of, you know, the phrase, it's not what you know, but who you know.
Mm-hmm.
And she obviously was very talented, but by now sort of working with this new family, she was gaining influence, she was meeting people, and she was having these experiences that she probably wouldn't have had previous to that. Here's a sidebar, and this is something for another time, maybe someone else. I don't know. I may go down this rabbit hole. But Jim, who is pictured with all the chorus girls, he was a soldier in the Middle East during World War I, and he re-enlisted in World War II at the rank of lieutenant colonel, and he was put in charge of the entertainment unit that was being set up for the troops in the Middle East, for the Australian troops, which I think is fascinating.
Yeah.
I know.
Wow.
So, yeah, I think that's really cool.
So is he a brother of Lance then?
He's a brother of Lance, yes. And actually Vane and Gerald are stage names. Their family name is Fitzgerald.
Oh.
Fitzgerald.
Yeah. Fitzgerald, yes.
Wow.
I know. There's so much. I saw Alice in Wonderland down the rabbit hole.
Now, Jim doesn't have a profile, does he?
I don't think so, no.
I see a Lancelot S. Fitzgerald and a Clifton Stephen Australia Fitzgerald.
Yes. Lancelot, the S is for Sherlock. That was his grandmother's maiden name.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. I mean, there's amazing things to be had with this. Go back. Okay, so now she's decided in 1930, after all of this stuff, to come to California to see what she can do in LA. And so she arrives on the SS Sierra with $500, which in 1930 seems to me to be an extravagant amount of money in the Depression. So she obviously was doing well and had saved her pennies, or someone financed her, which could have been her uncle. Who knows? Don't know about that. And then it says she was accompanied by Bertha, and I have no idea how to do this last name, Pijeragold? I don't know. And I thought, well, maybe it's a misreading of the thing. Transcription, yes. Because maybe it's her mother, right? Maybe it's Bertha Fitzgerald. I know. Bertha Fitzgerald came in July of that year, not March. So I don't know who this is. So that's another interesting thing to see.
Wow.
I know. And that is actually a picture of the Sierra.
Oh, nice.
Yes, that's you'll see in a little bit some of the places that I went to find this. This was from a Hawaiian database, which is amazing.
Oh, neat. That's
so
great.
for the first 2 years she was there, unsurprisingly, she was a dancer, and she immediately got in with an incredible troupe called Franchon and Marco. They were brother and sister team that put together these groups of women. Isn't the 1930s amazing? Look at those Art Deco costumes and sets. I know. And so they did stage presentations at the Hollywood Bowl, and they did tours, and they eventually got into the movies, into Republic Pictures and into Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. So she worked with them until she got her break. And this was 1932. The film's name was Sonara, and it was with Ronald Colman and Kay Francis. And she was third billing, which is pretty amazing. And she was the other woman.
The other woman.
Yes, the other woman. Now, we are pre-code And we'll talk about that in just a minute. So I really want to see this film, and Mubi, MUBI.com, has all of the films that are surviving that she's in. So at some point in time, I'm going to sit down and watch this because I'm so interested in this now.
Mm-hmm.
But 1932 was a big year for her in another way. She married Abner Norland, and she married him in Chicago in March. It was a very short-lived marriage, and I am wondering whether this might have been a way to become a naturalized citizen, because I did find her naturalization papers. Now, we're in another name now. She had, because the naturalization papers are under Phyllis Norland. And I actually found this record under Abner's name in Ancestry. Yeah. So her governmental documents are under things. Her passage to California was under her maiden name, under Halyard, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's got names going all over the place. So that's why the research is so interesting to me, because I had to think, I was looking for a marriage certificate, and I still haven't been able to find that. But when I looked under Abner and saw this, because there was this, naturalization thing, and I thought, well, he's a citizen. This might be for Phyllis, and it was. So I don't know that we'll ever know. Married in Chicago indicates to me that she possibly was on tour, and perhaps he was on tour with her. He actually died in Georgia, but he's buried in LA, so I don't know where that is. I mean, I just haven't had enough time to go through all of this and to figure out how all these people, work with her in her life. But she was divorced in Reno, which I think is a very fascinating tidbit for this time period in the United States, because if you wanted to get divorced, you either had to go to Mexico or you had to go to Reno. And if you're interested at all in this time period and how women were dealing with that kind of situation, there's a wonderful 1939 film called The Women that really sort of exemplifies this period in history about how women were moving in and out of marital contracts. So really the pinnacle of her career was in 1933. And she did a lot of small parts and things, but then she got, again, if you count Buster Keaton and Jimmy Durante as a pair, she has third billing. And this was a difficult shoot. Buster Keaton and Jimmy Durante were not getting along well because they were solo acts. They didn't like being paired together. Buster Keaton, I don't know how familiar you are with this particular artist, but he was very acrobatic. He did all of his own stunts. The stunts that he did pre-talkies in the silent films were exceedingly dangerous. But he was so unhappy that he drank quite a bit on this shoot. And in fact, he went AWOL and went to Mexico and married someone during the shoot. And so they had several days where he wasn't on set and they had to shoot around him. So this was a real example for Phyllis, I'm sure, on how difficult Hollywood could be. I found nothing written about her that was anything but lovely. But obviously, artists, actors can be temperamental. And Hollywood was working with pre-code at this point in time. So Greg had talked to me a little bit beforehand because I had put a blog reference on the Phyllis's profile about pre-code. and had said, why don't you go in and maybe put in the biography a little bit about what that means? And I've yet to do that, but I will. Pre-code is a real interesting period in Hollywood. It's from 1927 to 1934. And I put a website on there that can give you a tremendous amount of information. But we're right after silent films have gone away. Talkies have come in. But there's been some scandals in Hollywood, and most predominantly the Fatty Arbuckle trial. And it's labeled Hollywood as a den of iniquity. And filmmakers they didn't really have any stops on them at that point in time, except for individuals who maybe wanted to boycott the films, or religious groups who would come out and say, what are we taking our children to see? This is horrible. But sex, violence, racism, all of those things sold tickets. And so they continued to make those types of films without much of any censorship. Now, at this point in time, filmmaking was not under our constitutional free speech amendment. I know. And in fact, we wouldn't get that until 1967. So censorship was a viable thing. There were so many censorship boards. A town could have a censorship board, a state, a particular region, and they could say to the studios, we will not show this film in the way it is. So you've got to cut it. You've got to amend it and take these particular scenes out. And this was costing Hollywood a lot of money. And so they started self-censoring a little bit. But again, this was the roaring 20s. And there was a lot of new freedom. We were post-World War I. And so they would censor themselves for a while, and then they'd make a film that had some risque things in it and would make a lot of money, and then they'd go back to doing it again. What really happened was we had William, hang on, let me make sure I've got his right name. The Hays Code. Let's see here. William Hays, yes, he was a former postmaster general. And the Catholic Church had put forth a series of code that they actually adopted. And then this became law. Now, enforcing this was difficult, but with the Depression and with people being very conscious of how they spent their money, they still wanted entertainment. Studios finally got to the point where they were following the Hays Code. So there's hours that we could talk about with the pre-code Hollywood and Hays Code. And actually, my husband's a lot better expert on those kinds of things. But if you're interested in it, precode.com has a really good overview of all of those things. So I just real quickly wanted to show you some of the places that I went and got information from that I have never, ever before put on WikiTree. Well, great. And I should go back. IMDb, I actually have. But the Australian Variety Theatre Archive, incredible source. And they have gone to extreme lengths to truly look at not only the participants, but also the theaters and the producers and all of the artists that work in the variety theater. Trove is a treasure trove of Australian newspaper sources. I'd never been there. It's amazing and very easy. AFI is American Film Institute. Rotten Tomatoes is incredibly diverse film database. I had no idea that they would have silent films and the early films from America. The Hawaii Maritime Center, again, really easy place to find things. And then that's the Brisbane or the ballet company that I looked at. There's incredible. Australia has done an amazing job of putting their history and records in an online environment where we can get to them. And then I have a couple of slides of works cited. I'm not sure I have everything in there yet. I discovered when I watched the Elfmas yesterday, when Danny had a presentation, I was like, ooh, I can do that. Okay, I can make slides. So I started doing that last night. So I don't know.
Wow.
It's very impressive. Yeah.
But it was just a wonderful, wonderful time looking at this. So, and I'm so glad this is my first time of being an elf. So I've just had the best time, and I've learned so much on the Discord and watching what other people do and how they, look at things and how they work. So thanks so much. I'm so happy to be a part of WikiTree.
Great. Well, we're very happy to have you,
Wow.
Melanie. This is wonderful work you've done here. Amanda, thank you so much. It's been great. Amanda, our friend from Down Under, who had asked the question earlier about the name, she found an article in 1924 newspaper. And I don't know if this, because you said you'd found one, but I think yours were 23 and 27. So this is one from 24. In the Wentworth Cafito night. Special dinner dance, special attractions include Miss Johnson, Mr. Glennie, and Phyllis Dewberry. There you go.
In a tea dance, yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'm real interested in these event places, the Wentworth Cafe and the Haymarket. She did because she had. Oh, good. There's no beer. The Wait No Beer is actually on Mubi.
Oh, Mubi.
Yeah.
Full movie.
I think so. Yeah, I think if I didn't misread it, those are there. And I know AFI Turner Classic Movies often shows pre-code films, and there's just a lot of them. But certainly with Buster Keaton and Jimmy Durante, that would be one that I think would be in their lineup, because those two people were
they're well known.
Yeah, she's her name is in a lot of newspaper things because she was a draw. She was a marketing thing. That she was very popular and beautiful and obviously very talented. So unfortunately, there's not a lot. As Jinx said, her death was tragic. There was an overdose. And we don't really know a lot about her really after that. She continued to work sporadically. She did a Three Stooges film and some other things like that, but she was further in the background of those films. And she remarried. And so I don't think that she had any children. There wasn't anything that we could find with that at this point. So it's sad that her career didn't continue, but there were so many starlets that came to Hollywood and did a few, and then Hollywood moved on to the next bright star.
The next one,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing her story. And Jinx, I don't know is your audio working? If it is, you're welcome to chime in. This is the first time Jinx has tried to join us. So on a StreamYard or a YouTube. So she wasn't sure whether the technology was going to work for her or not. So.
Well, Jinx, I hope if you watch the remake or whatever, or the rebroadcast of the YouTube, please contact me. I want to help work with this because it's amazing and so interesting.
That's great. Super. Well, thank you very much. And any final words from my fellow elves before we sign
I
off?
have a question.
Oh, you have a question? Okay.
Yeah. Well, Well, thank you, Melanie. You said you learned so much. Now I think we are learning from you. So thank you for sharing all your knowledge.
Oh,
And I'm an ignorant, maybe on old movies. What are the talkies?
Oh, the talk. That's you. Go ahead.
yeah. Well, previous to 1927, American films were made without sound, and so because we didn't have the we didn't have the technology to synchronize the sound
Of course.
with the film. So yeah, so
Oh,
Singing
so
in
the
the
talkies
Rain.
are with
Yeah,
sound. Okay.
yeah, Singing in the Rain is the
I had no idea.
best fun musical that talks about that transition in an American film and how it works.
Oh,
Yeah, I teach
thank
voice and
you. Thank you
diction.
for
That's
that.
one of the things that I teach, and it's a lot of American film stars weren't able to make the transition from silent to talkies because they did not have the elocution. They could not be understood. They sounded horrible.
Yeah.
Voices like this.
Yeah, I can't stand them. That's from Singing in the Rain. Yeah. So yeah, it's a fascinating period, and it's so evocative of how technology can change something so quickly and can leave many people behind in the transition if you can't adapt to that new technology.
Sure.
Neat.
Wow. What a class we had.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Thank
We're learning
you.
lots. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Melanie. And thank you for everyone who's here watching it live and those who are watching after the fact. And we'll have the 8th day of Elfmas tomorrow. And it is scheduled for the normal time, the time we've been using for most of them, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. So please join us for that as well. And I think we will sign off now. Thanks again to my fellow elves, and a special thanks again to Melanie for presenting the wonderful profile, so we all get to know a little bit more about Phyllis, Hilliard, Jabari, and thank you, Heather Jinx, for suggesting that and adding that as a wish, so that we've all learned. So have a great day,
Thank you
everyone.
so much.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.